what is on the website as audio?
Yes.
Can't hear any of it. 6:03, a call to order the meeting of the Perkins Public Library Trust. After we call the roll.
So sorry. All right, one more time. What was the time?
6:03.
6:03. All right. So we have Linda Barda,
Here.
Brian Huckabee,
Here.
Valerie Hill,
Here.
and Melissa Mills, awesome,
Here.
and Charlotte Perrick. Well, that was like Melissa or the other one.
Okay, we've established a quorum. We will do agenda item number 2, consideration and action of consent agenda. We have the minutes from the February 2nd regular meeting to approve and the financial reports.
So do we approve those minutes with the time variance that we've already found, or do we just acknowledge that there's a few typos?
I would bring up what the issues are and then approve with those.
Do you approve of this purchase order, Mr. Huckabee?
Purchase order.
There's not a purchase order to be approved that I know of.
Oh, financial report.
It's in the consent agenda,
The financial report?
the approval to purchase order.
You must be looking at something different than I'm looking at.
Oh, page,
Oh, that's in the minutes. Yes, that's what we approved of in last month's minutes. Or last month's consent agenda.
In front of your packet.
So here's your agenda, that's the purchase, these are the minutes from last time, and here's your agenda from this time.
Rochelle or Bob, can you give us a brief rundown on the financials, especially since we have a new board member, how we read that revenue and expense report?
I think that we would have to, well, we really can't.
Well, they could remove the financial reports from the consent agenda. So make a motion to approve the consent agenda, but removing the financial reports. And then at item 3, she can talk about the financial reports. Or I can.
I make a motion, we remove the financial report from the consent agenda.
Second.
And approve the minutes as
I think we have to do two
edited.
Two different motions.
motions, I'm sorry.
Then a motion and a second to call roll.
Oh, yeah, all right. So Valerie,
Yes.
Brian,
Yep.
Linda,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
and Charlotte.
Yes.
Then the next thing that we need to do would be to deal with the approval of the minutes with the 2 edits.
Okay.
I so move.
Second.
And I'm so sorry, was it Melissa or Valerie? That's it. Okay, gotcha.
Was it Melissa? Sorry.
It's okay.
We'll worry about wording
Yes, Melissa? Or no, sorry. Charlotte,
Yes.
Melissa, Valerie,
Yes.
Brian, and Linda.
Yep.
If you'll read number 3.
Okay, agenda item number 3, consideration of the financial report.
I'm assuming. Where is it? Oh, I shifted it up to the front. It was in the back.
So hi, I'm Rachel Carnifex. Rachel rhymes with facial. I'm the finance director and city clerk for the city.
the revenue and expense report, you have that in front of you there, Melissa? Okay, so the first column is what's budgeted, the top being the revenue, the lower part being the expense. The next year-to-date balance, or if you think of it as the checks that have been cut, that's the money that's actually gone out this year. The next column are the purchase orders that have been opened. State law requires that we open a purchase order prior to a project or anything being done. So then the next column is the purchase orders that are opened plus the checks that have been cut. The next column shows the difference, and then it shows the percentage for the year.
So the column that says balance with POs is just the sum of the previous columns. Okay.
That next page has general ledger inquiry. Those are just donations.
I don't seem to have
We've never seen a report quite like that.
it. Oh, that's what you just saw.
Screenshot?
Yeah, it's a screenshot.
Other than the copies that are made. I'm sorry, I did not put this, Amy, our deputy city clerk, put these things together, and she's in Aruba, so she's no help right now. So let me see here, we're looking at donations that have been received in this fiscal year. That's what this is. And yeah, that's item 12. So we shouldn't really talk about
Oh,
that
that's on a
page
different
until we
item.
get to item 12.
Okay, I didn't know if that was,
Gotcha.
which one that would pertain to.
So I bet it's, oh yeah, see, it's in line back, because it's in order.
So do we have anything to consider or discuss or?
Does anybody have any questions about the financial report? This isn't the financial report for the library per se. It's just for the trust.
So the main number we're looking at is that bottom right, the 26,829 is what we allegedly have available.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we need a motion to approve this? I make a motion that we approve the revenue and expense report.
I'll second.
All right, so Valerie,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Brian, Melissa, and Charlotte.
Yes.
Agenda item number 4, public appearances, petitions. Anyone? Communications, personal appearances. Item number 5, consideration and discussion regarding the update from Brian Huckabee on the progress of the new library project.
I'm just reading ahead here to make sure I'm not going to talk about something that's covered elsewhere.
Not budget, not signage.
Masonry. That is most. We've got the budget, the masonry, signage proposal, and layout, and masonry work, and grants and donations. Basically covers most of it. Other than that, the only other update I've got is the architect is supposed to be giving me a price to develop a full set of plans. He texted today and said he's close, so by the time we meet next go around, I'll have a price so he can take all the CAD files we've sent him, plus the new stuff he's done, and build us a complete set of drawings. And he's gonna include in there helping prepare a few bid packages, you know, a small amount of administration, but not much. So we'll have that, and then we can decide how to act on that if we pull the trigger on that, which I think would probably be a good idea to have that at our disposal. Other funds potentially coming in soon.
Did we already, our initial contract with him, was that just for stuff that's already
Yeah, that was plan review for code compliance, and he did a few modifications on bathroom layouts. And then we had the exterior wall finishes. So he put together that small little set of plans. It was basically just exterior walls. So he's finished that portion of the contract.
And that's all, we've paid him for everything on that, okay.
Yeah, so we're good on that. And then I continue to bug subs when I find new ones especially, and get updated pricing for different portions of work, like plumbing, mechanical, electrical. I've got updated numbers on those. We can talk about that on the budget item.
Okay.
So I've been trying just to fine tune, actual hard cost here so we can whittle the total number down and talking more intelligently to donors and grant folks and people like that. I don't know if there's much else to talk about on actual progress per se.
Brad, you mentioned that masonry and layout and something else were included in the budget, and I didn't catch what you said.
No, I was saying they're included elsewhere in the agenda.
Oh, elsewhere in the agenda,
Yeah,
I'm
so-
sorry. Couldn't hear you.
So you don't want to talk about it now?
Yep, I'm here.
So, anybody have any questions regarding that? In case there's something I forgot to talk about on the general update. We still have concrete to tear out, and we've got some people working on potential donated services to tear out that back.
I talked to a guy today that is interested in concrete material for fill.
That'd be good.
So I will, it's Chris Peterman
Okay,
and Alan Dedenay for both.
okay.
So one of us might hit them up.
Be plenty of it, because Steve, he was gonna help maybe figure out how we can get that busted out. Figuring out a place to dump it'd be handy, so.
I'm sure there's plenty. Plenty of room.
Find somebody with a washout.
Yeah.
We have, anything else about utilities out the back?
Well, I think that we can talk, some of that we can talk budget. Some of it kind of crosses over, from one item to the next, but I did talk to another local plumber who's gonna do the utility work and the interior plumbing cost.
Oh, nice.
And the mechanical and electrical guys I've talked to are old Perkins guys, so I'm gonna go back to them and see if they don't wanna match his deal and do some of the cost.
Is there a way to, recognize that work in, I don't know, will there be a place where we put donors or donated things, or somehow a plaque or something? I don't know.
That's something that hadn't been discussed in a while, but we probably should, and give them recognition, because they're not gonna get any kind
Or
of
maybe,
tax credit. from
maybe
the-
it's something that, at the grand opening, we have some things that's maybe not permanent, but to recognize the efforts from different people.
Yeah, have a big banner with their name on it,
Something like
pull them up on stage, because services can't be written off.
But if people know that this company
We can't,
donated this, that's good for their company.
Yeah.
we can't give them tax credit for donating labor.
Not donated labor, at least nothing I've ever found led me to believe that you could. Because it's hard to value that.
We can give letters for, from the trust or from the city or somebody for donations.
Monetary.
I think we can probably do in kind if they provide us with, I had a crew out here for, X number of hours and it cost the company this much. I think we can put that in a letter and give it to whomever. And then they can take it to their CPA to decide what can go on taxes or not, but
We need to figure out if we can actually do that. That'd probably make a big
I know we can do letters. I've done it.
For services though,
I'll ask the auditor.
because I think,
I feel like-
I talked about this issue with Friends, and I think they said they weren't allowed to
I think
offer tax receipts for donated
Okay.
services. But maybe they can't, you can,
Yeah, I don't know.
but that'd be a good thing. It'd entice some people to
Help out.
pony up a little more if they get something back down the year.
Exactly.
You want to do agenda item number 6, consideration, discussion about the budget?
Okay. Yeah, budget right now that I'm still whittling on is sitting at about 470,000.
To finish it up,
Yeah. And like I've told everybody I talked to about it, I think there's still a little fluff in there because we can still, like I said, if we can do any better on, like HVAC is $83,000.
So,
If they will provide it at cost, or, say we're gonna do it for 60 and we give them a tax receipt for 23, or, every line item there we could save, a decent percentage on. And then some of these, like, we have $40,000 allowance for framing, ceilings, insulation. Insulation is about 12 grand, ceiling's about 12.5, lumber's about 4,300. If we get donated help to do the framing, instead of spending 40, we're gonna spend 28, 29. So there's another 10 we could save, just, volunteer labor doing some framing work. Paving, I talked to another paving contractor to do a seal coat only on that parking lot, which would be a little bit of patchwork, but mainly just a coat of pretty black on it and new paint stripe, is $6,500. We have 28,000 in the budget, and we've talked recently too about just do a facelift on it day one, and then that's something we could work on grants and donations after we move in, and tear it out and redo it at a later date. So there's 22,000 we can take off of that.
sounds good to me.
470.
So, if you have volunteer labor, do you have like a time frame where like the framing will take place during the summer, during certain months? Like, do you know like what the timeline, because if you're asking for volunteers, they might need to know what the timing is on that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, and I guess that's a discussion we'll have to make here is when we decide we want to spend that money and buy the lumber and drop it in the building, and then we could start scheduling that, I guess.
And is that just for anything that's under $50,000? Or is it 50, or is it up?
competitive bidding,
Was it 100?
it's 100,000, it's at 100. It's a little bit complicated when you are doing stages or phases. So it gets, the best case scenario would be to bid the whole thing out, get the money, then bid the whole thing out. I don't know if that's realistic or not right now. But competitive bidding is 100,000, so if we were gonna, thought we had the money to do framing or heat and air or whatever, then we could bid those individual things out. If you don't reach the 100,000, you need to get 3 quotes. And if you're under 10,000, you're gonna spend, you can just negotiate with a contractor.
So if we're gonna use donated labor for something like that, if the lumber's 5,000, we can just decide to spend the 5,000.
You could have the lumber, delivered.
Get the wood, and then schedule the work, and there's no bidding out process.
Right. Can't do much inside till the floor's leveled, can you?
Well, it's about as level as it's gonna get, other
I
than
mean, filling the running places.
Yeah, we need to fill those in. And I guess the focus, I haven't really pushed spending much inside the building until we get the exterior walls done, so that's why I haven't really.
Exactly.
It's enticing now while lumber prices are down to go ahead and buy the wood, but then it's just sitting inside the building and there's $4,500 we could have spent to finish something else, so. And then there's a few things, once we go through, floor layout, if everybody can kind of, maybe, we're not to that point yet, but on the agenda, that's one of the things, but once we finalize layout, we can start thinking about finishes more specifically, pick out carpet or VCT or what we want in different areas, and we can fine tune that flooring budget, which right now is 35,000, and I know we can cover it for a lot less than that. And that's another thing that we could go with economy grade stuff day one, and 8 years later, friends can have a fundraiser and upgrade the flooring and parts of the building at a time. Because, you know, carpet's not gonna last forever. So it's gonna have to be replaced sometime, so, you know, we can save money there. Fire alarm, I got a quote on, so my budget's good on that. Paving's coming down, utilities is coming down. Plumbing, Rudy didn't give me a new number on it, but I told him I had 24,000 in the budget for plumbing. He said that's way too high. So I think between the 24 and 15 for utilities, 39, that's probably gonna be cut in half. So there's another 15. So I think the net effect of all my rambling here is that the 470 is 400, under 400, with some of the savings we know we can already grab. So,
Are they gonna have to run any new gas lines or anything? Is there an existing meter to that?
there's gas in the alley there, yeah, there's a meter. And that's one of the decisions we'll have to make here that we haven't jumped to yet is what type of heating air systems we want. If we want gas, heat pumps.
What's the lead time on them? That's
I'm finding most stuff is a lot more reasonable these days. There's nothing that's really, 6 months out like it used to be.
I guess you don't need any concrete block then. I guess you don't need any concrete block. That's not 25 weeks.
I didn't make copies of this thing, but y'all can kind of.
When you ask people for donations, do we show them this and say, like, do you want to donate to one of these specific things, I wonder?
I guess it's on another,
I'm sorry.
any donations, but yeah, I think I can answer that question here. When I've met with a few donors lately, I take all their plans, that budget, and say, here's where we're going, this is what we think we need, and this is how much we have, and let them know we still have a little ways to go.
I think that makes it extremely plausible and possible. We'll move on to the sign proposal.
She's got,
Unless anyone has,
I don't think we'll have to take any action. She'll have copies of that. I can email them, or Jennifer can send you copies. Go on to the next one if you want.
item number 7, consideration and discussion of signage proposal. This is for the words on the front and the address, Perkins Library. All of this is on the front, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't put possible action on this for a reason. Because there's a chance that if somebody walked in tomorrow and wrote a check for $200,000, that library's gonna be named after them. We might change the name or do something different on the
Scratch
side.
out Perkins.
So this library is the Thomas Wilhart Memorial Library. So the new library, does that name go across or no?
No, it doesn't have to. There was discussion on that early on, and I don't remember it. But I don't know.
They're all dead now,
Okay.
And we could always,
including the grandson. Really died.
we could always add supplemental signage like on the entry doors or something.
What worries me is we're calling it the Perkins Public Library, which is logical, but the Friends are the Friends of the Thomas Wilhite Memorial Library. Is that gonna cause trouble?
Friends is a totally separate thing from the city, so I think, you could probably change, you might have to change the name for tax purposes to keep the 501c3 or something. But I'm not that well versed in that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And when Brian and I met with the donor, and then later on, we talked about sometimes when organizations are trying to raise substantial sums of money, you may want to sell the naming rights. Or, go to big donors and say, we're thinking if somebody were to give X, maybe we'd want to name the library after that person.
Doritos Public Library.
Whatever. Like Brian said, if the check was big enough, I don't think. But that's something for the trust to decide whether or not that's, how do you raise the big money? And it's further down in the agenda, but.
Well, so the main purpose of this is just to have something else for discussion. I mean, we have 3 kind of pre-made spots in front of that building to accept signage. So the idea is,
Yeah, I'm with you.
just look at a layout, everybody could kind of think about it when you drive by the building and look up there and think what you want to see. I think one of the,
It's smaller.
one version we had,
That one's smaller. That's a small
yeah, it's a
section.
smaller one. Instead of having the address there, I think one early version an architect did had like established
Yeah.
1900 whatever, instead of the address, which I'm torn. I could see doing either one. So
I think the address.
Of course, it's the age of the building. If it was established like in 1920, the library wasn't established till 50-something.
yeah.
Yeah, and which building?
I imagine they were both pretty close.
I'd say just leave the address if we were voting today on it. But we also need to consider the backdrop where those recesses are and the signage goes. Right now, they're unpainted, unfinished. It's 60-year-old flaky paint. So we kind of need to decide what color to put there and then what material to put there. If we just paint it, 20 years from now, it's gonna flake off and they're gonna be trying to paint around these cutout letters that are stuck on the face, and it's gonna be a chore. So we may wanna put some kind of painted, powder-coated aluminum
Yeah.
plate, something back
Behind it.
there before the letters go
Yeah.
on. So, which is gonna add some cost, obviously, but it'll be, somebody will think it's down the road when it's time to paint.
That'd be better than the concrete.
Well, if you did
Or whatever's there.
a powder-coated powder-coated something plate, then instead of getting metal letters, you could do decals on the powder-coated. I don't know.
You do a vinyl.
But I don't know how well that would, I mean,
It looked,
May not last
it looked
very
good
long.
on the lifespan on those vinyl.
Over time.
So we need to be thinking backdrop for that, and then what color for the backdrop, and then the color for the letters. I mean, obviously, right now, I just went black, because it's an easy choice.
Mm-hmm.
and then those would be powder-coated, I guess, the letters, or are they just
They're shop painted.
shiny metal?
Is it recessed?
No, those
There's
are,
nothing infill, I mean, like, if they couldn't do a piece of ethos that matches the side.
yeah, we could put, I think that recess is pretty shallow. There might be enough room there for half-inch Den's glass and an ethos coat on it. That would be the longest life thing you could do, probably. Or just clean up what's there if it's a cement substrate and put ethos right over the top of it.
Yeah, is there like particle board over it right now?
I honestly haven't got up there with the ladder,
I didn't either.
poked around on it, but I'm pretty sure it's solid from the backside of the wall. It's all full masonry. I think it's some kind of stucco finish over backup brick.
Oh, okay.
And so these are just cut out steel, and they have standoff studs on the back, so they're not flat on the wall. They're stood off a little bit. But we can spend a little more, they do the cutouts, and then they weld returns on, so they're kind of three-dimensional looking, but I don't know if that's a necessity. But again, it's something to think about, because I think it's something that would help finish up the outside of the building and draw a little more attention. So, it's not a huge expense.
It gives us a budget number anyway.
And we can still shop around. This sign company I've actually used on a couple other jobs recently, and they've been fairly economical and proactive. You've tried to deal with sign people before.
Yeah.
You call them, they're like, well, what do you want? I don't know what you want. This guy just I sent him the drawing, and the same day he comes back with that and the price. So
It's like he wants business.
You were talking about color behind them. There's this line is light, you know, and these caps are light. You might think of something similar to that gray.
just match that
Yeah.
cast stone color.
Yeah, I think that's what
Is
I
that-
always envisioned.
Yeah,
To look like the same material as that cap.
yeah,
Even if it's something.
or behind it.
We could do backlight on them. Again, that's not a necessity, but it'd look cool. Tony, I don't think we gotta kick that around too much. I think if everybody be aware that that's something
Yeah.
we could do in the near future and be thinking about. If anybody has time on their hands and finds another sign company, throw it at them and see what they come up with.
Okay.
They might have a different idea for style and their price might be better. Anything else on the sign?
Oh, I just marked that off.
We don't have anything here to take action on.
Next item, which I had actually already marked off, consideration, discussion, and possible action concerning the needed masonry work on the back of the new library. It's for the infill of that. Anyone driven around the back of the?
Oh, I've watched it way too long.
I have Public Works trying to patch some of the holes.
Okay.
I'm surprised we haven't had, I suppose there haven't been a lot of varmints in there, but I'm surprised we haven't had vagrants.
Well, that's what we were concerned about.
Several.
Sorry.
I moved that you do it yesterday.
Well, I talked to a mason this afternoon, finally got one who said he can patch that big hole for me for less than $950. Said that'd be the most it would be. So, I think we've talked about it in the past and kind of already approved going with that when we found somebody.
Does that include the little holes up at the top?
No, that's mainly just that big door opening for now.
Moving the door is gonna be a bit of a cost too.
What's that?
They wanna move the door from the room to the hallway.
This segment on the layout.
There's already a door there.
So they don't wanna close this one
Yeah, we'll keep that one.
and keep that one.
Yeah, keep that one. That one was kind of covered up and never really that visible until we tore everything else out. I was like,
Oh,
"Hey, there's a door there."
Okay,
So that's the one we need to close
yeah,
down.
yeah, definitely.
And I was gonna say, that's something that more is for the layout of the new library,
Yeah.
which is the masonry work on the back.
So we need to take action, or
I don't think we
we
have to.
already did take action. I mean, we already approved.
Yeah, so that's my update on that. I think within the next 7 to 10 days, I'll have that hole closed in.
You did already take action to do that?
Yeah, like months ago, we voted to, they'll approve if I found somebody to do it.
Yeah, what we'll have to do is we won't be able to pay the person, the vendor, until after you've approved the purchase order at your next meeting. So just so he's aware or she's aware that they won't get payment until after your April meeting.
Okay,
And if you can give Jennifer the vendor name and the amount, then she can ask Eric to open the purchase order.
okay.
Or if we have to have another special meeting, it could be done then.
If you had to have a special meeting, it could be done then. Most vendors understand 30 days if you work for public entities.
Is the square on the back, looks like a window was there or something? Could he do that, or do you have another plan for that?
No, I think the rest of those holes, my idea is get him here and try to work some of that other small stuff in while he's here.
Okay,
But the main priority is getting that door closed in.
okay.
And some of that other stuff, if it's non-structural, I'm not gonna waste money filling it because we're gonna cover it up with
Sure.
ethers, so.
Sure. So you guys did approve some amount of money to be spent on the,
Well, we knew it was gonna be under a couple thousand.
I keep asking because I don't know. I don't remember.
Well, maybe we should just.
I mean, you could do another motion not to exceed $2,500 or something in masonry expenses. That way, when you get him here, you say, hey, that, and it adds up to 2,000, we're still good. We just do one per
Yeah, it
short.
does say possible action, so we can just redo it.
Yeah, you could just do a motion to have masonry work done not to exceed anything up to 10,000, whatever y'all want to do.
Well, I make a motion, we approve masonry work not to exceed $2,000.
I'll second.
I think you ought to have a little leeway there.
No, because it's really $600 or $700, and I told him fudge a little because we gotta shore up that
All right, you're the boss.
tile stuff. He said he wouldn't exceed $950.
So if he reads the minutes, he'll know he's approved up to 2,000.
Do you wanna name the vendor too, and then it'll be
Already
really,
got it.
really fancy.
I'll second it. Did somebody second it?
Linda did.
1 second. It'd be hard to do because I have 2 possible first names and 1 last name for him.
That's, you don't have,
I know his first name.
Roll call.
Are we good? Are we
We're
done?
waiting on a name, or
Oh, okay.
My name's Spencer.
it's fine.
Okay, that's fine. Then Brian,
Yep.
Linda,
Yes.
Valerie,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
and Charlotte.
Yes.
is he in town here?
He's Cushing.
Okay.
Item number 9, consideration discussion regarding layout of the new library.
And then,
So where are these comments?
all right, let's see. Is it easier for me to come up there? So I had the girls look, or by that I had Jen and Becca and Rebecca Grotz take a look at it. I don't know if y'all can see, it's hard, it's so small. The one big thing that we noticed that might be potentially an issue, I don't know if I'm blocking anybody. They are concerned about line of sight, about this back door. Because if there is only one person working at the front desk, if someone were to slip back by here, it'd be really hard to know if somebody left the building. And that was the question of, would it be possible to have the exit over there?
Anything's
versus there?
possible, but that adds a fair amount of cost because that door's already there. That's
Right.
why that's why we're using that. And the electric service, I think, is already coming here, so it was logical. I understand what you're saying.
What about
Can you put an alarm on that door?
camera or alarm?
Yeah, an alarm on that door?
It's like,
We
that's
have
off
one of
your
those.
all's decision.
Yeah.
I think that would be a better thought than moving the door.
Well, cameras are so cheap these days. You
Yeah,
could put
camera.
a few cameras in that back hallway on a monitor.
And have a
right
monitor
there.
with a.
Right.
That's what I do.
Yeah, it's cheap.
Even if it was fake and they just thought they were being watched.
Now, where's the desk?
That's this little rough square rectangle cube thing.
Our version of the drawing had that on there when I
Makes no sight back in this area.
Some of our embellishments
That's part of what,
on the furnishings.
Sort of circulation desk area.
so that you can actually be able to see. This will be the workroom, the director's room.
And these are,
Meeting room,
For cost, or he just did that?
story time
Well, I
room.
think he just kind of wipes and
This is the children's easy area, and this is like the staff
put it all back in.
this is,
kitchen.
So
yeah, it comes-
for children's programming in the summer, would that be this children's room? Is it just an open
This
area?
is where the easy like picture book section would
Oh, I
be,
see.
and then this would be like the story time room. But
Mhm.
for summer reading programs, we probably
Use
use
that
more
big
the
meeting room.
big room.
my big question, and I kind of wanted to ask Allison, was in our original plans, this room was back here.
Right.
not a part of this at all. So do we still need these little meeting rooms? Could they
Oh, well,
meet,
they're
can't
only-
they meet in
This
that
one's the
room?
only little meeting room. Because this would be this one, these were
Well,
part
but
of the original
children's
plan.
story time
Yeah.
could be in there too.
Well, ideally, we'd really like to have its own space, just because it is, story time's kind of its own thing, that if we could leave stuff set up, it'd be great. But also, then that way, if we did look into renting the place out down the road, we could we could close this area off and close this area off. That way, if you needed to rent it, they could have the bathrooms, the kitchen, and the main area. And so we wouldn't, I mean, if we did ever try to have story time there, we wouldn't be able to keep anything in there. And then we'd basically have to have another room just for storage.
Well, Jennifer, didn't you talk about the desire to add a door?
Windows.
If at all possible, yes. Oh,
Speaking of storage, is there, okay, this is the only storage here?
Well,
at
we've
the
got
moment without like built-ins,
some
yeah.
right there.
Yes, if possible, we would, because visibility is always a concern, and even if you had cameras, it's a matter of, seeing someone do something or being able to hear it. So if at all possible, they'd love to have windows where you could see into the story time room from the workroom. And then be able to see into easy, but if possible, could we have a door on this side? And the thought of putting it here instead of here would be that you're not wasting valuable corners. We're trying to figure out where to put
Well,
storage,
if you
where to
already,
put things.
if you have a window, do you still need a door?
Well, and the thought of the door is just so that they could go from planning in the workroom and then go into story time and not go, because that way too, if we did have somebody choking or something, it'd be easy to go through. But I think really, because if we could have they'd take a door over a window. You could always make it a glass door. And then actually their other question is, do we even need a door?
Yeah,
Here
just
from
have a
easy.
wall,
Well,
yeah.
Yeah.
And part of my thought is, it'd be nice to be able to somehow kind of close it so the patrons don't just walk into the story time room. That way we could have stuff like set up and, so maybe even like a half door or like a little gate or
You had a
something.
rolling shelf that you just keep moving back into the way, like.
And that could work, yeah.
So where is,
Cause they like the idea of having it open.
is the storage room?
This little thing and this. And then maybe some
Well, you've
storage
got some
cabinet or
extra room
something.
in the room.
Yes.
Well, there's shelves all over the place.
There's a lot of
Right.
room there.
If that's the break room, this is the,
Director's office.
Well, that's the staff. Are
Well,
you
we
gonna
talked
flip
about
those?
flipping it just because also for my own selfish too,
because this is staff.
with screaming toddlers. Well, and then they like the idea of being able to go from the workroom to a story time room.
Okay,
We need flipping these.
Yeah.
so flip those, add a
Just
door.
flip the wordage. But leave them the same size.
Yeah, I
but
got you.
yeah.
You wanna put windows in? I think we originally
Yeah,
had.
this one
we had those in
is a
there.
window. This one didn't have one
Okay.
This is
in my original
all
sketch.
kitchen.
So it's like a long skinny kitchen.
But then you can't close your door and take naps in there, it's the only thing, if you have windows. So, you gotta think about this.
I will be
What's all
happy
this?
if I can just take a regular lunch break.
What's all this right here?
So it could be,
That's just
Either
that
shelving or-
That's
yeah.
that overhead beam, I think is all
oh,
that's
okay,
showing.
oh, good. But this is where like, young adult and juvenile would go.
Yeah.
And then with the main adult collection out in front.
How many square feet is this main section here,
That's,
approximately?
well, the whole thing's 7,000.
Yeah.
So that's 2,900. And what about,
I'm sorry, it's boring.
So goes first.
Study
We'd really
rooms.
love to add, yeah, those study rooms back in.
Wish I could
They're
do
on-
this a
The
little
ones
bit.
that are like on brochure.
Like, they're kind of hard to read.
It's not getting any clearer.
Private.
Yeah. Well, and even if we did do that, we'd still like to have, like, the glass, like, I almost am tempted to go grab like one of the little flower things, because they did like that idea, because it's, with all the middle schoolers we have, it is nice to be able to see into there, and so no
It's a
one's,
safety concern.
right, a safety concern, but then again, we do have a lot of elderly patients, so if somebody falls, we'd like to know if someone's in there. Oh, well, no, I'm thinking of like the little brochures that are out there where it shows the, confidence room, sure, they're like right out by the banner.
So you want one study room be enough, or you need two?
For how many people that we have in here, I think if we could have two, I think it'd be better, because we frequently will have genealogy full, we'll have that back table full, and then these two tables full of the, like the epic and the homeschooling, and then we've had times where we've had two people studying in the corners just on the floor, because I have no tables.
Well, what about that meeting?
Well, that's kind of where we're thinking of, you know, the thought was how many tables they get used now.
So where in this are you talking
and
about
it's
the
up to
study rooms
6
are?
on here.
You
So
mean
this
in
one's kind
this-
of,
Oh, okay, I see.
I mean, that's where they got shifted, but I think, is it on the front? I don't remember, sorry, it might be on the back. Yeah, that's kind of what they looked like.
See, this layout had the meeting room out behind. So, and Allison always said there was plenty of room here, but then you take this out, and I just don't know if there's all that much room left.
Well, then we can always reconsider that room. I mean, it just kind
Well-
of got shuffled inside when we tore the metal building down.
How many square feet is it like this room?
That meeting room, can you read that?
This is like, it's really tiny. Hang on, let me get mine, because it's not as green. Oh, it's over here.
This is
Sorry,
the
this
old
one's a
one,
little
right?
clearer.
33 by 31? 20.
Oh, this is not clear.
What are you looking at?
I said, that's the old one.
Yeah, that's it.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
So
23 or 25.
Move that space.
Right.
And put it here.
Yeah.
We're kind of contemplating now if we're running out of room.
I'm not sure, they could be 30.
Well, what do you think, that big meeting room we have on there?
By what I'm seeing on this
Do you
one.
see that getting utilized as a public meeting space much down there?
How big is this room?
Like, oh, the
How many
big
square
one?
feet in this room?
25 by 40, what is that?
Close to it. So this room's probably close to what's on that paper there.
This is 800 or 1,000 square feet probably.
So could it be that this, adding a public meeting room could be a future project, you know? Back in the spot where it was on this thing? I don't know.
I think so. I think that original option was utilizing that existing building
There was a
that
bit
was
of,
not
there,
really.
that was not actually a building, that was tacked on.
but see,
Shed. I'm just gonna tell you,
Yes.
it was a shed. Sorry.
you can't use
I was
this and you
just saying,
can't
is
use
that-
the back.
Yeah, I think it
Back.
could possibly add something there.
It's probably very similar to
Or
the
like,
size.
you
I
know,
don't know that you could
have
add
more
there.
room for stacks if you took that out now and then have that be a future add-on later after you moved
Yeah.
in. But I don't know.
I was thinking that your current stacks, like you don't have enough furniture currently to even fill up.
Yeah, the current area, no,
Well, one thing I'm thinking is if,
not yet.
the thing I like about leaving that space void right now is that it's that much less money we have to spend day one. If we could work out a layout for future expansion into there, if we decide that a public meeting room is not a necessity and we have other uses for that space,
I
other
mean,
study
you could
rooms
open this up and
collections.
make it be more stacks,
Yeah,
you
that's what
know?
I'm
Well, we could, I mean, but realistically, for how much programming we do and how much we're hoping to expand, like, when we have actual summer
Summer
programs.
programs, sure.
Well, I'm saying this room is not big enough
I know.
for your
Not-
current summer
not
program. And
nearly.
so if that's the same size,
Right, well, but we have talked about, we like the idea of having, like, kind of almost that space to be able to, if
go
it does blow
outside.
up, yes, and we can do like our messy programming outside, and so
Yeah, that
it,
makes sense.
it could kind of be almost dual purpose there, especially in summer, because now, I mean, it sounds funny to dedicate a room just for summer programming, but it goes from May through August, so it's a big chunk of our year.
Well, and it would be slightly more usable than this space with this stage and.
Yeah, that's true.
The stage and, yeah.
And you do after-school programming as well in that,
Right.
in this space,
Yes,
right? Don't you?
yes.
So that would be, so that's every day.
So that's part of where we looked at using that room more for our after-school programming, because we have all the rambunctious middle schoolers, and that way we could leave the storytime room more for our littler guy programs,
So
and
they're
then,
not-
because there are times too where we'll have, yeah, we would love to have an after-school program for our little guys, but then we have our middle schoolers, but what if we had an adult program? That's kind of why we like, or a Friends of the Library meeting, we like the idea of having the boardroom. That way we could potentially have up to 3 different events going at once.
Well, we need to multitask in some of these rooms then, if we want,
Yes.
if we want like a private video room, so people can talk to their doctor, we have a computer,
That's kind of what
Over here
we're
in the corner of
thinking,
that.
yeah, more about doing with that space.
so need to use that room more, cause it's a big chunk of space if it's not
Yeah,
used.
that's
Well, and what,
Every day.
What I
ideally, if
wonder.
we don't have to use it for a meeting room, we'd like to use it for like almost like a maker space. Because right now, we'd love to have one, and there are grants, but we have nowhere to put any of it.
Put it out.
Things where you could put like a Cricut machine or a 3D printer that people could use, things like, if we did proceed with the Cake Pan Library or the Seed Library, it could all the random craziness could go in there, and it's something that you could lock up. That way too, but ideally, if we could put a window in there, that way if somebody did need to go in there to use it, or to make the doctor calls or whatever, you could still, like, they could close the door and be private, but we could still go in and make sure, like, did you fall?
Well, everybody's got the paper you can take home and
Yeah.
scratch out if anybody has any great ideas.
Did you say you needed a door between the workroom
I
and
thought
the
that would be to leave that. We could
story
add-
time? Did you say a door
The
between
door,
there?
I think she said a door here in the corner.
Yes, in the corner, and that was a thought is,
Into here or into here?
because we already had a gap there.
Make them
so
go
we would
around, make them go down the
Use
hall.
less space, so it would be more of a door,
Where at?
door frame there, and then it'd swing.
Oh, they're just
Yeah,
off
if that
the
makes
access
sense.
from.
Oh, from here
Well, we-
into here.
They're even thinking out like
Okay.
which way the door's hung, they'd like it to
And
swing out
a
this
door
way,
with a
so
window
that
right
we
there
don't-
and call it good.
We need as
Yeah,
much
kid.
kid
And then
space
it's
as we can.
dual
because we
purpose.
just-
Swing into the
Yeah,
office.
into the workroom, so we're less likely to hit it.
Swing it
And
in
same
here.
if we could have it swing into the
It's in the middle of the
kitchen.
wall, that takes up potential.
But if we did
For
have doors
storage
here,
or whatever,
we'd like
but you
it
could
to
still
swing
get stuff on
this
both
way.
sides of it.
And we're looking at maybe even putting a smart board.
Well, and that would
There,
be
so
there,
that
I
you
said,
can-
well, that's where she's talking about.
Don't do a smart board.
Right.
They're like way out of date.
You see, okay, insert whatever's newer at the time.
I think a TV.
TV.
I think
TV.
everything can cast to a big
Oh, there you
TV.
go.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what everything's switching to on campus.
See, that's
Smart
what-
boards are dinosaurs.
Good to know. You say you'd
You're
rather
having a kid or
swing,
being in that system, you're like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you say you need to swing into here?
Well, that's
Sound
even
like
if
she
we put a
does
door.
that program.
Well,
Yeah, I don't think you need a door there.
Okay, and then
That's
we're
what
going with
you need a
that.
room,
That's-
big or
I didn't even think about pushing like a
I guarantee it.
thing.
There's lots of mobile furniture
Yeah.
for classrooms.
Here.
But if you just rolled that into the,
Yeah.
a 3-foot wide rolling cart, then you just
And then that way, yeah.
Yeah,
use it every time you want, but.
okay, no, yeah, I think that's good.
Can we not just do like straight there and then do study side by side and not be quite as.
But we like the idea too of having a kitchen, because we do so much messy stuff, so we could go
They have
from
these
there to
penciled
there,
in
or
there.
if we could do programming.
So the study rooms you were talking about, have you been to OSU's library recently? They have little study rooms all over the place.
do, it's a
Storage,
That,
right.
and
Similar
people check them out.
Chairs and tables.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Not to be like that, you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I agree.
But if you had a designated closet for it,
You didn't have to sign up for them so much in advance, and you have to have so many people sign up, like, it's really hard to schedule them for just one person, and then you check out even more.
I mean, you have to have,
Oh,
when you
yeah, come, like, you have to schedule out almost a month in advance.
little kids whose parents have to stay.
But that's part of it, we do have so many
Gotta
more.
have chairs available.
Well, Epic,
But you need the majority of the space full.
they're encouraged to use your local library, so I honestly see
We're glad to keep
us
that.
getting even more students coming in to study and make teachers invest.
Yeah.
Like, I hate to.
And she's got this whole.
Something that.
So what's the little tech closet?
Oh, that's a question mark.
Well,
Because
it's
we
a-
weren't sure what was in there, and Becca went, can tech and wires go in there so they're not running all over the place? And, oh,
Well, it's a space we
watched it.
Utility.
definitely plan to utilize. I talked to
Right,
architect
that's what I
about it. I was like, how did we end up with a? 'Cause I
Something
don't-
with no,
'cause
I
we
thought
didn't-
we had doors, right, it has no doors. I thought we had doors in it, but maybe, are these?
I don't know how that came to be,
That's a
because
water.
we have a big attic access
Seven.
here too, because we've got that, plan to put the furnaces up above.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, we're gonna access there, so you can't really stack that room full too much, because you still gotta get that
Right.
access ladder down.
I keep avoiding you, or missing you. I didn't know if you
I think they're, yeah, I think we gotta have a door.
Because y'all have been talking, so I think I know.
More toilet.
How tall are ceilings going to be?
The men's is a urinal, is that why?
No, it doesn't.
Well, the front few bays are still wide open all the way up, 18
Right.
feet.
this section.
And then behind there, like where the reception desk is,
Yeah,
all
what I
that's
thought. Like,
10 foot.
all here back.
Or what? 10? Did he
I think
say?
he said 10,
10.
right?
Yeah, yeah, half of that front space would be 10, then all the small rooms, we're just gonna go 8 foot and keep things cheap and easy.
So you just take that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
I said, I don't know how it came to be.
Is the story time room big enough? 'Cause I thought part of the reason we were doing a new one is to get into a bigger.
That's for the little ones.
Yeah, that's for.
When they add the school age, they'd use the big room.
It's the meeting room.
Middle
How big
schoolers.
is that room?
Yeah, I don't
Brian, how big is that room?
have to look at the thing.
The story time, I can't, I tried, I couldn't read it.
Right, that's what I was like, hang on.
I think it says 17.2, and, but I don't know.
I've got those plans.
Right, I'm like,
Nice drawings.
there you go. I'm over here reading microscopic dots, trying to make letters.
Story time 17.2 by 18.5.
Oh, it's bigger.
The meeting
I
room,
saw 8.
the big meeting room is 23 by 31.
22 by 31. That's
23 by 31.
That's 700 square feet approximately.
And everything you've done budget-wise is basically based on this floor plan.
Yeah.
So if there's a lot of changes, it creates a lot of.
Added.
What's this room?
It's a story time,
What's the size?
17.2 by
18.5.
Jennifer, if you switch director's office and staff workroom, I'm guessing you want to move the wall there so you're not giving them the bigger office.
They can, really, if anything, I think they need the more space, because it's just me in there versus all the, like, office supplies and everything, all the crazy leaves of paper, all the summer reading charms.
Yeah.
Ideally, I would like the least amount of storage to be stored in the office, so it is just me and the paperwork that I have to
Yeah.
store. They can keep everything else.
How big did you say, like, the storage room and that room next to it are?
Which one? Oh,
The big storage room is 6.5.
oh wait, I think she's meaning like the, what's labeled the boardroom and the story time room.
Yeah, the boardroom's 14.2 wide, story time room's 17.2 wide.
17 too.
That's a good idea.
By 18, 5.
And they're both by 18.5 this way.
You could flip this too. And she could have this off of there.
That's what I'm saying.
I said, if you want a small space, why couldn't you flip this? You take this and they take that.
Oh, well, that's what I'm saying, we'd put
He's
the
watching
director's
it,
room
he just
here
threw
and
his
then
room out.
the staff
Staff.
one there. Yeah, that's all, it's just the wording, that's the only thing that's changing.
Gotcha. That's what I was gonna say. That didn't make sense.
That's not right.
Well, I'll pull up floor plan and add some of these changes and then send it back to you and you can kick it around, share it with everybody.
I like having all the windows and all these interior walls, I think.
I think that was the biggest concern out of everything, because they're just like going, okay, there's no visibility with all these flat walls going through.
The thing I hate the most on this plan is the break room.
Is the
It's
break
just a
room?
goofy mess.
Yeah.
Well,
you know what?
you need, well,
I mean,
It seems to be the least of it, but else is.
well, we need to figure out exactly how much room you need. I don't know how much time you're gonna spend in there. I mean, if somebody really takes a break and goes and sit in there for an hour to eat lunch, or if they go grab a pop and go back and sit in their office. Because you could take
so
this
you're
whole-
saying the break room is basically a kitchen, it's like a kitchenette?
Yeah.
Is that kind of what it is? So could you, well,
Those
could
are-
you expand the children's room and put a kitchenette in the back of the children's room? You know, I don't know if
Well,
that makes sense.
because that's just books.
Oh,
Yeah, that thing's 24 feet long, eight wide. And all we
Unless
have
you
there
fill
right
it
now is a
with
sink and a
cabinets.
countertop and a fridge.
And
The
it's,
galley, the galley.
Yeah, which we talked about, you could build a desk type or cabinet type area there, put some bar stools and have an area for lunches or whatever.
That should be good, because really, we only have one person breaking
well-
it one, at a time.
Well, and a countertop there would be nice if you're working on projects of trying to,
Yes.
have a space that you can lay stuff out.
And that's part of it, ideally, as much like cabinetry and storage, because storage and outlets are some of our top concerns.
So we kind of need to lay out some
Like
storage
cabinetry.
cabinets in there and
So you
figure
have-
that out.
So I would move
And then relabel it break room / storage.
that door, I would move to there.
well, I would
And
just store
allow that to be counter space out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the last time we were going through,
See
we were
what
still
she
trying to get them
move.
a table
I
or
can
something. And cabinets, and it's such a narrow
Gotcha.
thing to work with.
You thought what?
I thought if they moved this door to over here, ran the counter all the way to here, that's a long area, and you could do storage for part of it and then leave part of it open underneath as well, and so you would have some.
don't break up
This
the,
one is all 320 something square feet. That one is only less than 800. Just seems,
Well, I guess you need to talk your folks and see how, if you need that much space, and if you do, what you do with it. And if you don't, you could skinny that up a little bit and add a little more room.
To those
to
I
areas.
don't
both
think
those.
this one needs it. Oh, I don't think this one needs more. I mean, I'd be surprised
Well, I
if
mean,
it did.
we do hope to put, Becca's got big plans for like putting a stage in, which is something that can be added later, but our thought is storage in here, because you gotta have a place to put all the felt
Yeah,
props and.
yeah.
Well, what I need to do, I need to print out a clean one of these, and then in Becca's spare time, she can use a little scale and start drawing in. No, seriously, draw in
yeah.
the cabinets and tables and stages and the cricket machines and all the stuff you guys think you want to use in those spaces, so we can figure out, well, heck, that room's twice as big as it needs to be, let's move that
Move it
wall.
over.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, maybe the boiler.
reallocate the space, so when you move in, you're like,
That makes sense.
you already know how you're gonna use the space. 'Cause it doesn't cost any more today to move this wall,
Right.
or that wall, or that door, or it's easy to do today.
those circles can't move.
Right.
But hatch that in with a hatch like that puts a grid, you know? to scale.
What's that?
You know, hatch it in with a grid like that.
Like
so
a 1 foot
like
grid?
a 1 foot or 2 foot grid so they can,
Well, I can put a scale, well, this is 1/4 inch.
yeah, but some
This
people
is
just.
exciting.
It is.
I mean, I can sketch to scale, but I still like boxes.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I move we keep moving on.
Yeah.
Well, I think we need to set a goal and say, next month, we're gonna come back and at least make some of these decisions. So I'll make sure I bring some plans down here you and your folks can play with. And then I can print out some new stuff, even if we have 2 or 3 options, bring it in here, we can,
Go from there.
take some action and whittle down the plans, so we're not changing stuff the day we're trying to build walls.
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Item number 10, consideration discussion regarding fundraising ideas. We've spoken to some donors.
Well, that's,
I would like to, kind of like to discuss 12 first.
well, the fundraising, I guess the next 3 items are all kind of semi-related.
Valerie, if you would like to move to item 12 and then you can move back to item 10, that is okay to do.
Okay. I can just bring it up.
You can just say we're gonna move the
Okay.
meeting to item 12.
Well, let's skip down to item 12, consideration discussion regarding pending donations. I hadn't even read ahead, I had just mentioned that. Okay, pending donations?
Well, I think we've got, last check, Friends of the Library had about 27,000. I think they've at least one point verbally said that they'd be good for 25. I think they're still in support of that building, so.
25 additional, or 25 of that 27?
Well, yeah, 25 current of what they have. And they might have brought more in since then, and I don't know about it. So for conversation purposes, I'm chalking up 25 to Friends. And Ms. Perry down here has pledged another 25. And we're waiting on her to pay off another loan so she can come back next time and raise that again. And then I met a donor who wants to still remain somewhat anonymous for the time being, that's pledged a minimum of 50.
15?
50.
50, okay.
And said that that would likely go up. So we have 50 there, and we met a donor last week with Bob, who's got the means, just not the current cash. So he is still on board to help us, and we're gonna be as patient as we have to be and hope that the situation comes up where he can write us a fat check for hopefully at least that 50, if not double that.
So that's an additional 50?
Possibly, but I'm not putting that one on paper yet, but I'm still pretty sure
I
something's
think
gonna
that
come.
that donor will do something, and I would assume it'll be,
Well, the other donor told me that that donor was gonna come up with 6 figures, but
they'll probably shame each other into
yeah.
running that.
Awesome.
See, I wondered if these figures are all firm, that you have a big whoop to do and let's match it. And get the rest of the people in the area to match it.
We haven't, there was a gala at one point.
Yeah, but we were getting ready.
Pandemic,
Yeah.
yeah. Is that something we could do again? Or is the expense of that doesn't always pay off with,
The
know?
gala never happened,
I know, it was,
but I think it could be done, but
I think
I bought shoes for it.
it might could be done without a gala.
yeah.
Well, the
That's
gala's
what
been
I'm wondering.
going on in the recent past. I think it's something that could go. I think we've got a little momentum going now, and people ready to do something, I think that might be a good time.
It might, it would have, I mean, there's definitely an expense to it that there's not for some of our other fundraising, but I also think it has the potential to be an annual event that we keep raising funds.
I went to that
In the new
CASA,
building.
that CASA thing a couple weeks ago. They know how to do it. They know how to shame people sitting at those tables and to give money. And they raised about 140 grand that night.
Who?
CASA.
It's a
Court-appointed special advocates.
They know how to do it. I took some notes, so if we
A
don't
lot of
put
it's
together-
getting those people into a room.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do we have this?
It's the,
That's the thing, we have a lot of, what I'd say, average folks like ourselves that'll show up and give a little money, but to make it worthwhile, you gotta get those big spenders there. And otherwise, everybody just gets all prettied up for nothing.
And it does take an army to put one of those on. For our Plaza fundraising dinner, it takes about 35 people.
We had, it was well organized last time. It was ready to go.
So I think that's still a possible fundraising idea. I think the grants and big donations are still kind of the main focus where we get more bang for our buck. So we don't want to give up on fundraising. I mean, it's great to have friends still doing their thing and, coming up with money to kick in. So I think if Friends says they want to throw a gala, I'd be all for jumping in and helping. I think it's something they'd probably be in a better situation to try to spearhead.
How do letters work? Like if we had a letter saying that these people will give this much and we want you to match it and send it out to alumna and stuff.
Yeah, I think that was kind of the idea. One of the donors I talked to had that if we get enough pending donations here, we can publicize it at that point and say, hey, we have 2 big donations that equal 100, but it's matching funds, so we need the general public to kick in 100, so we'll have this 100 and just act, play it that way. And I'm sure the paper would help us publicize that. We just got to get that together, figure out when the time's right to pull the trigger on that one. I think it'd be nice to have a little bit more, and I guess it's another agenda item. I don't know if Jennifer can tell us publicly about that thing.
Forget I said
Stick to the
anything.
script, Brian.
Not at all.
That's all I know about fundraising or pending donations.
Donations and fundraising.
Did I miss anything, Bob?
I don't think so.
I think you had other players that have been talked
yeah.
about that, if,
Yeah.
like I said, if you get any of them interested and you
Yep.
got my plans and stuff, I'll
Yep.
be glad to come meet whoever you find somebody wanting to chat. If we find 5 or 6 people, kick in 25, that'd get us a long ways down the road.
So you want to jump back to 10?
Well, we kind of just semi-covered it with gala discussion.
Friends,
Yeah.
keep trucking.
Any age grant should, is that April? That would be huge.
So some of those people, some people do fundraising where they have the dates on the calendar and you give however many the date is or something like that. So you could do 10, 20 up through 1,000 and say, pick one and give that amount, and I don't know. I'm just thinking of when Sarah did that envelope thing, for her.
Yeah, you buy a calendar date. I mean, you buy, we've got this box of
Numbers. Squares.
Yeah.
Numbers. Well, and another thing is maybe you figure out a square foot of the library, and you divide it up, how much a square foot is worth, or a square of the library, and you have people buy that,
Make it
and then
a
you
Nobleman.
fill it in.
like in Scotland.
How many square feet is the library?
Or I mean, I don't mean square, but however, you section it out, right? And then you figure out how much one of those blocks would cost, and then you have people say, I'm gonna pledge however many of those.
$57 a foot.
That's what I was just,
Yeah, I mean.
$57 a square foot, and so you could have people
Yeah, that's a good idea.
do it that way. And maybe we have a big thing where we write in the names, and at the opening we have, you know, people can find their name on the, and maybe it's not something you keep forever, but you know.
Well, I still like the idea too, just like a pledge drive, and I think Friends has something kind of like that where people just have ongoing donations, but I think if we get 200 people in the
You
community.
know, my daughter,
Kick in $30.
my daughter thinks that she has named the children's area. But technically, I don't think she's given quite that much money. She gave
think we should ask
20,000.
Well, you need to tell her about it.
What?
You need to tell her about it then.
Speaking of fundraising, I think these amounts should be increased on there. On the back, the donor levels.
I don't know that I've seen this.
I had never seen that.
I don't think I'd ever seen it either.
You see, she put that at 20,000. I don't
Naming
know if it's
rights.
because of that or.
For permanent areas.
I just picked up a stack of those.
So is that separate from the 25?
She's already given it.
Oh, okay.
That's my daughter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think some of those could definitely go up.
Because the naming rights could be a room or the whole building, and that shouldn't be the same price.
No, they should not. Yeah, the naming should be at least 50.
I wish it still looked like it did back in the day.
We'd still have to replace the windows.
So, grant opportunities, NEH is April. That, refresh my memory on the Lowe's hometown. We just did that 2 weeks ago, didn't we?
We just did that, I wanna say June.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's early June for Lowe's.
And that one we turned in the 100 to 200 range, and it was kind of a brief
Yes.
project description we gave, so.
That's all it would let us.
And then we have T-Mobile pending out there too. There's only 3 that we
Yes.
turned in.
There's a Kubota hometown grant that just opened today,
Okay.
up to 100,000. Yeah, I think it's up to 100,000 for revitalization of a community project.
This is so revitalizing.
It is. And I think we may have applied for it in the past, or something. I don't remember.
We did the Lowe's in the past, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, maybe that's what I was thinking.
And what were you saying about the NEH?
April.
That's due in April? Or that's when we find out?
Award.
Oh, it's awarded.
Awarded in April.
And that's 150.
Matching.
Requires 150 match, but it's 150,000,
Right.
And,
which the match
We don't really want
is
any,
really close.
we don't even want any of this money until we find out if we need to match that.
Do what?
We don't want anybody to actually give you this money until we know if we get that and we can use it to match.
I think it's within 5 months, is that right?
Yeah, there's a certain window.
There was a time frame.
I think if we got it today,
What you mean, yeah.
Fundraising.
if we got it today, I
For the
think we'd be
NEH,
okay.
yeah. On the NEH.
There was a little window around, but we can't recall,
uh,
3 months, 5 months, something like that.
So with the donation stuff we already talked about, that's 100. If we got something else we're lucky on, like a T-Mobile or something, or Lowe's hometown, that would get us close to the halfway point, which I think would bring us to our next USDA loan.
Yes, item number 13. Consideration discussion regarding possible USDA loan.
So I went to a meeting with the USDA, Rachel and I did yesterday or day before, and they have a community facilities program through rural development. They will loan money. It's right now 3.75% up to 40 years are their terms. There's also the possibility, I believe, of doing a grant combo. They said you're basically, if you apply for a grant through community facilities, you're not going to get just a grant. They want to take their grants and put it with a loan, but you should check both boxes. And the grants they're not as prevalent, but it depends on what funding they have. And everything besides this one small category at the USDA is all geared towards infrastructure, with a bipartisan infrastructure bill that came down. But community facilities, and I took pictures, it's 3.75%, and then there's some stuff on the income level of the community. If you meet certain guidelines, that you can possibly get that interest rate reduced, but I'm not sure we could meet those guidelines anymore. But
Did they have any grants in that category that looked like they fit us?
no, there wasn't really anything in grants that I saw that would fit this.
Unless, well, if you did the loan thing, then you can
If you
apply.
get, yeah, like
Combo.
you could potentially get a $50,000 grant
Well,
up to
Up to
$50,000
15% of the loan amount, not to exceed $50,000
in grant.
in grant. So if you applied for a $200,000 loan, for example, you could possibly get $30,000 as a grant.
Now, did I understand in some meeting before, you said that like if we use USDA, they have more rules you have to follow?
When you bring federal money in, it does increase rules. Now, it may not increase it as much with a loan, and it may, but there's certain things that would have to be done. There's the Davis-Bacon Wage Act and
And the bidding gets really
And I wondered if that would negate some of your, what people would do and give us.
It could make that part much more complicated, yes.
It would cut a lot of subs out, because a lot of subs aren't gonna wanna do all the prevailing wage reporting and all that junk.
Right. It'd be nice if we could do it without it, if it's gonna cause us everything to cost more.
But we could absolutely have that conversation, prior to doing anything. If we get to where we think we need 100 or 200,000, we'll
I could see a good case where we'd get to the 100 to 150 range as a balance, and if we could figure out
They also want a complete project. If there's grant money involved, doesn't matter if it's $2,000 or $50,000, it needs to be a complete viable project when their money's brought in and spent. So you'd have to do it at the very end.
Completion.
But they are being more and more active. I mean, they have a new state director, and he is Kenneth Korn, and he is very much out there wanting to brainstorm, do things, talk, figure out ways to do things. His heart's in smaller communities. That's where it came from.
And how much did we ask for from T-Mobile?
That one was for 50,000.
So if we did get a loan through USDA, it'd be at the tail end, we'd have to pay it back at 3.75 over up to 40 years. we could possibly get a grant rolled in with it for 30. We talked to our local bank who could take that 30 and keep it to offset the interest as time goes on. My word, I'm not a
Maybe.
banker.
Maybe.
I don't know how that, I don't know what rules they have if you
Yeah,
gotta.
I think they're gonna be pretty strict on reporting where the money went and things like that. But the 3.75, I mean, that's half the interest right now. Really, or,
Almost double what we could have done in 20.
I can't do that math in my head, but I guess we need to kind of run some numbers and figure out, you know, if we were to borrow 150 at 3.75 for 25 years, what that breaks down to monthly,
yeah, how do you
yearly.
service that debt, or do you want the city to?
If the city has.
You just do a
X amount.
calculator, I mean, there are
Well,
calculators like
here's
this
a math-
online.
Math nerd, that's why we brought her on.
Keep us in the, what's positive?
So we do mortgage calculator. Okay. So you said 150,000.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the best one, but it's just the
You
first
can go
one.
up to 40, but I think that makes us all cringe, taking out something that long term. I think we'd rather do something,
Okay, here's just one.
Yeah.
Okay, so we do, you said 150
yeah.
at 3.75 for 30 years or 15? What did you just say?
30.
I do 30, starting point.
Looks like monthly payment $695. $695.
What is it for 15 annually? 20, 12, or
12 times
15
695.
1,091.
so 13,000 a year.
For 15. That's not horrible. I'd say between, if the city'd cover half, I bet Friends would pick up the other half. We'd have our yearly gala then that would cover at least half that, I'll bet.
Not to mention my kids' late fees.
So collecting it, that we have to get.
That's right. $2.
Is that something the city would, I know you can't speak for the rest of the city, but I mean, from your standpoint, 6,000 or 7,000 a year for a building payment, basically.
I think it would be attractive to the commission. It's their decision, but I think.
It sounds palatable to me. I mean,
And on the fundraising, I'm backing up a little bit, probably getting off agenda, but the Masonic Lodge, I think, is still interested in doing something again
okay,
in, you know, at some point in 2023
okay.
with the trust or whomever, like we did last year.
Well, so we probably need to go hit up Friends, and, I mean, we talked about it before, but probably need to have an official powwow and see where they stand on long-term commitment and yearly budget that they could commit potentially to loan payout. I guess worst case, if the Friends dissolved, then the city'd be on the hook for 13 grand a year.
Which is probably how I would look at it,
Yeah,
you know, just
starting point, just worst case.
that way if something, you know what I mean? Hopefully we get half of it, but feel good about being able to do it.
Well, to guarantee the loan, it'll probably have to be in the paperwork.
Yeah, we'd have to guarantee.
Get along with
They
them.
could, but, well,
So are we talking about doing the USDA loan?
Is an option.
I would like to see the fine print of their,
What are other things?
I think
The one
that,
thing I don't like is the federal money aspect that muddies stuff up. I mean, if we could find another loan opportunity that wasn't federal funds.
it's just the interest is the killer, you know, now.
But I feel like once the library starts being built, like fundraisers are gonna I don't know, I feel like people are gonna step in and you could probably pay it off early. That's what I'm thinking. But I don't know.
Like I said, super muddies water, I guess we'd have to look fine print, like you said, and see just how much red tape comes with a federal loan. And if it's a grant, I could see, but the loan might be a little less restrictive on labor wages and all the hiring practice stuff. Because we already have hoops to jump through from state laws, city laws, we don't need federal rules hampering us too. So,
Well, I'm glad that, I mean, that's a good conversation to.
I think we'd all still like it, enough donors to walk in and we hit that 400 and we pull the trigger and go, and the city's not out a nickel. And we get a new building down there, and the only thing the city's gonna have to, well, we've already talked about, it, gonna have more maintenance on a bigger building, but it's gonna be all brand new, so.
Utility bills and stuff like that.
But, and we'll have all new LED lights in there. The electric bill won't be significantly worse, but you won't encounter maintenance for some time, hopefully, if we do a good enough job putting things together.
Maybe you won't have to call the plumber as often.
Yeah.
I'm gonna inherit new space over here you can do something with. Like bowling alley or,
Rent it out for
You
birthday.
could do that.
Yeah.
well, what do we do with that? Is it, do you have some link or something you can share on that, or easy paperwork that?
On the,
Look
not
at the-
necessarily easy paperwork.
I mean, just something to review so we can kind of figure out if that loan does cause us issues.
Why don't I'll send an email, and try to get some feedback, and then send that out to ask, what strings are attached.
Yeah. Have to be followed.
Item 14, is there any new business?
We always get in trouble right there when we try to bring something up. Everybody's scared.
Yeah,
Good job, everybody.
I appreciate the opportunities presented to us by this agenda. If there's no further business, I make a motion we adjourn.
I'll second.
All right, Valerie,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.